Okay, let's dive right into what is honestly a fascinating medical mystery. We're looking at a situation where a super common pantry staple, literally something you'd casually toss into a pasta dish, completely shut down a severe case of anxiety for someone. And we're not just sharing a fun anecdote in this explainer, we are going to unpack the hard, deep biology behind exactly why this worked. It's not magic, it's chemistry. And it tells us a whole lot about how we can navigate the absolute chaos of our own genetics.
So, the whole thing starts with this highly specific and frankly incredible anecdote from a user online. They wrote, I had an active anxiety response to almost everything until I tried capers. I mean, really think about that for a second. Chronic, constant anxiety just alleviated by eating a tiny pickled flower bud. It sounds way too simple to be true, right? But it sets up an incredibly intriguing puzzle for us.
It immediately makes us ask the exact same question the user asked themselves, using their own slightly sanitized acronym, WEF. What even factored? Like, was this just some bizarre placebo effect, a total random coincidence, or is there actually a hard, concrete scientific explanation for this sudden and massive relief? Well, to figure that out, we have to look past the jar in the fridge and zoom way in on the molecular structure of the caper itself. And that introduces us to our hero molecule, quercetin. Quercetin is a naturally occurring compound, and it turns out capers are absolutely loaded with it. This one single compound is what takes this whole phenomenon from a quirky internet story and makes it completely biologically plausible. Let's break down the neurobiology here, because quercetin is actually doing two very distinct, very specific things in your brain at the exact same time. First, it activates KCNQ potassium channels, and second, it modulates your GABA system. Let's look a little closer at that first step. By directly activating those specific proteins, the KCNQ potassium channels, quercetin essentially calms down overactive nerve signals. And what's totally mind-blowing about this is that its action is strikingly similar to how certain anti-epileptic drugs work. But instead of taking a prescription pill, this profound nerve-calming effect is happening entirely through a natural food source. That brings us to the second crucial mechanism, which is how quercetin positively influences the GABA system. You can think of GABA as your brain's literal brake pedal. It's your primary inhibitory or calming neurotransmitter. In fact, studies show that when this GABA pathway is intentionally blocked, the anti-anxiety effect of quercetin just totally stops. So that proves this isn't just a minor side effect. Interacting with GABA is a major reason why runaway anxiety gets halted in its tracks. So you're getting this powerful dual-action relief, but what's equally important is what you aren't getting. Quercetin is remarkable because it offers a really gentle, safe calming effect without the heavy sedation. You don't get that intense sleepiness or muscle relaxation, what researchers call hypoactivity and myorelaxation, that you typically see with standard anti-anxiety meds. You get the calm without the crash. Now, it's worth noting this wasn't just about eating a handful of capers and calling it a day. The user's specific dietary approach was a highly intelligent intervention. They combined the quercetin from the capers with very specific meal timing, like eating cocoa, beans, and pork, and then having eggs later. This strategic sequencing probably helped optimize their mineral absorption while reducing inflammatory or excitatory compounds in their system. It was a beautifully layered approach to hacking their own biology. Amidst all this biological sleuthing, the user made a deeply philosophical but perfectly accurate observation. They said, genetics is an accident. And you know what? They hit the nail right on the head. Our underlying genetics, our metabolic imbalances, they are essentially a giant accident. Think about it. Your genetic code was never perfectly designed. Millions of years ago, it was shaped by totally random mutations in cosmic radiation. Then through ancient history, we survived viral insertions that just kind of stuck around, all filtered through the brutal sieve of natural selection. DNA is basically a cobbled-together historical document full of typos, duplicate chapters, and deleted passages. It's a messy, accidental blueprint. And from that accidental blueprint emerges your metabolism. So having a metabolic imbalance isn't some moral failing. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just happens because ancient survival variants, that alphabet soup of genes like MTHFR, COMT, or MAOA, that helped our ancestors survive famine or the freezing cold, suddenly clash with our modern world. When those ancient genes meet today's diet of fortified flour and vegetable oils, plus environmental toxins and crazy modern stress levels, the system just naturally breaks down. And then epigenetics adds a whole new layer of accident to the mix. Your genes aren't just what you were born with. Their expression is actually altered by the past. What your grandparents ate, the specific toxins your mom was exposed to, the stress your dad went through, all of that can influence how your genes are expressed right now without even changing the underlying DNA itself. It's literally another form of accidental inheritance. But here is where the story gets incredibly empowering. There is a hard line between what happens to you and what you do about it. Look at this breakdown. Your genes and your environment, that's nature. That's accidental. You didn't choose them, you were just born into them. But trying out capers, watching your anxiety fade, that was observation. That was choice. And it led to a real, measurable outcome. Your biology might be an accident, but your response to it is entirely up to you. It's a really stark contrast. On one side, you have accidental inheritance, the chaotic hand of genetics and environment that you were dealt. But on the other side, you have applied wisdom. By taking that accidental inheritance and applying intentional interventions, like eating capers and carefully timing your meals, you shift completely from being a victim of circumstance to an active practitioner of your own health.
Just look at the specific actions this person took. They tried capers and literally felt their anxiety lift. They changed the order of their meals. They questioned the standard medical industrial system and dove deep into researching complex things like TMAO, quercetin, and methylation. The ability to notice, to experiment, and to question your own biology, that is absolutely not an accident. That is a powerful act of agency.
So, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We asked earlier, what even factored? The answer was biochemistry responding to an intelligent, intentional intervention. As the user realized, awareness is the opposite of accident. Applying your conscious mind to watch, test, and adjust is exactly how you navigate the chaos of your biology. It's how you reclaim control over the accidents of nature. So, what accidental inheritance are you carrying right now? And more importantly, how are you going to apply your own awareness to change it?